So we have two stories that I'm make a comparison to. Um, you had one case where there was this individual by the name of Lance Storz, uh, and this took place in Allen City, Floyd County. And this individual, and I'm gonna paint this picture intentionally by saying this individual was white. Okay. So the police responds to a domestic call. Okay. Upon doing so, they engaged with this individual who was hostile, and pretty much as an end result, two officers ended up getting killed and seven others wounded, and the canine was killed in the process of, this encounter. Okay. Um, they were dealing with a hostage situation because he barricaded himself in the house with him and his family. Okay. And upon seeing the photos, you see that, when they finally got him, they handled him with such care. And I'm saying that being sarcastic. Okay. But yet, he was taken into custody alive, you know, to have his day in court, his due process. Okay. Along with the charges that, they put on him for killing the two officers. Okay. So that's one story, and I'm going to circle back to that. Another story we have with Jayland Walker, 25 years of age, black. His interaction with police, and this happened in Akron. He fled a traffic stop, which prompted the police pursuing him. It was alleged that on the highway that a single shot was fired. Okay. You got to a point where he abandoned the vehicle. Cops pursued him. He was fleeing from the officers. In the videos, you see where tasers were deployed to, do, how should I say, without using lethal force. They tried the non-lethal tactic at first. Okay. It didn't work. He's still running from the officers. It got to a point where they went from non-lethal to lethal, and they let off an excessive amount of rounds that the end result, Jayland Walker was killed. Okay. Upon using these two cases, these two scenarios, when looking at it side by side in comparison, the validation where people are seeing it, for what it's worth when they say, are there two Americas, two justice systems? How you see in one case where cops encountered a situation and was met with deadly force where there were fallen officers, but yet the person was brought into custody still alive. In my opinion, in that case, there would have been justification if that individual would have gotten killed. That would be understandable. But here you have, in many cases, when there's similar encounters with black individuals, that they're either fleeing from the police, had a weapon, and here's the other case too, the other details within the Jayland Walker case. They went back to the vehicle which he was in, and the gun and the clip was in the vehicle, not on him. Okay. So when you have a situation where a person is running from an officer, the officer is not met with any, how should I put, real danger. Okay, because at this point they're dealing with the individual with the fight or flight. You know, um, the question that comes into play is if there is no officers that are wounded, hurt, or even killed when they encounter black individuals, how is it that the black individuals always end up getting killed? And there's always an excuse and there's always some kind of justified reason to give the officers the benefit of the doubt with the justification that the shooting was a justified shooting when it comes to a person of color. But when there is a deranged white person that is, for the lack of an actual danger, an actual threat, he gets his due process. Where is the outrage when you have fallen officers when a white person kills police? Where's the police mentality, going against a person who was an actual threat towards the police? How come you don't have these people who are so quick to cast judgment on black folks with all their fucked up rhetoric and shit, all of a sudden silent when it's a white person that does fucked up shit that causes the lives of the officers to be? No talk about the service of the officers. Now you got officers with families that don't have a father or a husband that's coming home to them at the end of watch. Where's the outrage? But yet, when it's a black individual, the officers get to go home. But the person who was black don't. It's either a child, a son, a father, or what have you. He don't get his day in court. Which is the reason why I beg the question, what's the point of a justice system if we can't even make it to court to plead our innocence or guilt? But then you get those that want to throw up more white people get killed by police. Okay, well, if that's the case and that's the rebuttal that you want to run with, where's that white outrage? I mean, you're so pro-police, but you're awfully quiet when the police affects your numbers, right? But since we want to run off of statistics and numbers and stuff like that, where are all these examples of these white people that are getting killed by the police? I know I've done the video on maybe 4 or 5, to show that there is, those examples that do exist. But as far as the greater number to just throw up in our face to justify why cops are killing black people to where they don't have their day in court, and it's just a quick condescending rebuttal and then move right on past out of convenience because you don't want to have that discussion because it goes against your narrative, because then it kind of contradicts your point of view, so to speak, because there's an example laid before you that you don't feel comfortable with having to answer when the question comes about. How does this individual gets to go into custody, have his day in court, and he actually killed officers and wounded others? But yet, when it comes to other black, and I'm not saying that there aren't black individuals who haven't shot and killed police officers. I'm not saying that at all. And I would say in those scenarios, yeah, if you if you put another person's life in danger or have taken another life, then you get what it is to be expected. The question that comes about is, how is it that these individuals on the other side of the fence, on the other side of the spectrum, keep being brought in alive and others don't make it? And no one wants to directly answer that question. They dance around or avoid having to answer it altogether. And this is where the problem comes into play. And then instead of respectfully and taking a step back and understanding why there is anger, why there's outrage, when you can look at these two examples side by side and say, there's a problem here. How come the same treatment for one isn't awarded to the other? But instead of answering the question respectfully and with a sense of logic and an unbiased approach, no, you got to get certain individuals who want to sit there and justify why a black person got killed by law enforcement because they were a thug. The cops feared for their life. You know, they were stupid. They didn't comply. They didn't do this. All this, song and dance to justify and give the cops the benefit of the doubt. But when it comes to a white person actually killing police, how come they are given their day in court? How come they aren't unalived? It's a question that is asked in fairness. And I know I'm going to be sarcastic when I say this, taking the phrase from another fellow content creator. I'm not trying to make it racial. I'm just making an observation. And it's an apparent one that you can't just overlook out of convenience. Because it's funny how whenever you get certain content creators that cover a police involved encounter, they're quick to always want to go in on a black individual with extreme prejudice, sarcastic and hateful rhetoric. But when it comes to a white person in the same predicament, crickets. You don't hear shit. So it's convenient when you can sit there and trash talk a black individual who probably should have known better, probably wasn't, the best individual as far as society is to be, looking at with a sense of judgment, so to speak. But when it comes to white people, how come they aren't like given all these labels and terms and fucked up like terminologies and shit to describe them when they are fucked up in the sense of being awarded every fucked up term to be applied to them? But we got sugarcoat shit, right? Because you can't say nothing bad about white people, but you can say an awful lot of bullshit towards black people. Cater to the white fragility and their victimhood and their sense of sensitivity and shit, but there's no filter when it comes to directing any kind of derogatory terms or ideology or perception when it comes to black people, because we're all generalized as being negative. But then when you go to address it, is stop playing the victim, right? But when that same energy is redirected towards the other group, you're being a racist. You just don't like black people. But when you got white people saying fucked up shit and certain black people co-signing off of the fucked up shit that white people say, it's all good, right? It's not no, oh, wait a minute. Hey. If it ain't cool to say shit about white people and shit like that, why is it then it ain't cool to say shit about black people? And the only person that I've seen so far, thus far, to address that directly in a way that he could do it is Ricky Manor. But for anybody else, they pander to a certain audience. And in their comment section, you see the racist rhetoric that is being entertained. But they don't address it. It's unfortunate that we have a system where it's not fair going across the board. When you have certain police departments and certain demographics, they approach situations with extreme prejudice and a biased attitude. And people say that's not the case, but when you look at all these examples, how can you sit there and argue otherwise? And then when you get a situation or an example in comparison to put on the table to say, well, okay, if that's your stance and that's your argument, what do you got to say about this? All of a sudden, you're conveniently quiet. And when it comes to that cognitive distance, when it seems like, people are conveniently out of touch of reality, because again, if you live in a certain demographics, you're only going to see things from your comfort zone. But when you step out of that bubble, you see things are a little different. I, for one, noticed that when I left Connecticut, moved to Houston, moved to Texas, moved to Illinois. So when addressing these issues, I try to see things from a perspective where I try to be fair. And I don't just cater and pander to a particular audience. And I'm not one of the people that have to say or do certain things, whatever, and how should I say, be likable. I'm not here to be a role model or be someone held up on a pedestal or something like that. I'm just an average normal person that look at what's right is right and what's wrong is wrong. And if you have your own grievances or you have a point to, you know, challenge me on or something like that, to have me see things from a different perspective outside of my own, I welcome that respectfully. And to be quite honest, there is one person that was in Brandon Tatum's comment section that addressed me and was respectful. And we had a brief, going back and forth, but it was on a mature level. I don't mind engaging with individuals like that. And I saw his point and he saw my point. And, we can agree to disagree on certain things. But I don't like how when it comes to certain instances that people cherry pick certain things out of convenience and give a one-sided perspective. Or especially if you got this pro-like mentality and stuff, you're only going to see it from a certain perspective and disregard anything else that challenges you. And the echo chamber, because that's where you get too comfortable with people always agreeing with you to where you can't see where when you're wrong. But your pride won't allow you to see where you're wrong. Anyway, it's been a long day. I had to go see the fireworks. Went to the carnival earlier with my son and my friends and stuff. And yes, I'm tired. But I really want some feedback on this under this video. Please hit that like button, subscribe if you haven't subscribed, and let me know what you think. Leave a comment in the comment section. You already know how I do this. Until next time, until next video, peace.